Good morning, old boys. 2 days ago, we returned to campus for the start of the second half of the Michaelmas quarter. For the Pasco boys, it was a particularly momentous occasion because they got to pack up their bits and pieces from where they had been squatting in the old Tatham in the main quad and move it back into their recently refurbished digs. I have to say, it's a monumental achievement. So much of the old Pasco is still evident in the original materials, but with this incredible infusion of light, with this amazing extension of the living spaces, there is a palpable sense of a new beginning. We've always known that the Michaelmas fathers have had front and center of their minds opportunities for the personal development and the comfort of Michaelmas boys. In 1903, the trustees authorized funding for a building extension which would allow for dancing lessons on wet days. Part of that project included a stove, which was to add to the general comfort in the cold weather. Today I'm going to share with you a profound story. It's one of old boy Tony Large, who found himself on a ship which had been torpedoed and sunk 700 miles off the west coast of Africa. At that point, Tony must have thought that his luck was out, because 6 months prior to the attack, he had already survived a torpedoing of the ship he was on, the HMS Cornwall, which was sunk in the North Atlantic. On this particular occasion, Tony found himself one of 51 survivors on a life raft, with just 3 gallons of water between them. Imagine, that's less than 11.5 liters of water, with so much doubt lying ahead of them out in the open ocean. For those of you who know your Joseph Conrad, you will remember that he is very much against the idea of reflection. His sense is that to count the cost is never ever a productive process. How much time for reflection Tony must have had out on that life raft for 39 days. I find myself wondering if he ever thought of the lines which are etched into the wood paneling at the top of the Memorial Hall, those lines by Emerson: "When duty whispers low, thou must. The youth replies, I can." In the end, Tony was picked up, one of just 4 survivors, just off the coast of Freetown after those 39 days out in the open ocean. He found himself with another opportunity to say, I can, when years later he was aboard the HMS Cornwall, which was part of the thickest fighting with Bombardment Force D off the coast of Le Havre during the D-Day landings. In a letter later on during the war to his parents, he had this to say: "The thought that after you two had sacrificed and done so much to bring me up, I should not waste your efforts." He goes on to talk about his thoughts on salvation in that letter to his parents. And his sense was, what he'd learned out at sea was that salvation comes in its own time. It's not something that can be forced. But in the meantime, while you're waiting, you should keep fighting, keep moving on in positive ways. So, until I take roll call again in a fortnight's time, just keep looking for ways to keep saying, I can. Until then, from the new Pasco, out.